Hi everyone, welcome to Homework Help for lesson 19. Let's get started. 1/8 of the students in the class are in the school band. So we want to know what fraction are not in the band. So we have in the band, we have not in the band, and then we have the total. So since we know that 1/8 is in the band, we can replace the I with 1/8. And then we're going to add the n amount, which we don't know how many. So then that gives us the total. Now, since this is a parts of a whole, we know that the sum is equal to 1. Or in this case, a fraction out of 8, since we want to keep the same denominator, so it is 8 out of 8. From here, we just use our inverse operations to solve for the variable n. Number 2, the theater was full when the movie began. 76 people left before the movie ended. 124 people remained. How many people were in the theater when it was full? So we start off with the full theater. We're going to subtract the people that left, which is 76. And then that's going to give us the amount of people left in the theater, which is 124. Now, I've never been in a movie theater where 76 people leave. I've been in a movie theater where people leave, but not 76. That's a huge amount of people leaving. So once we have our equation set up, it's just a matter of using our inverse operation to find the amount that were in there when it started. All ants have 6 legs for number 3. A scientist studying ants observes each leg on every ant in her sample. If her sample contains 84 total ants, how many legs did she observe? So we have 84 ants, right? So we have the number of groups, which in this case is 84. Then we have the number in each group, which is 6, and that's supposed to give us our total number of legs. So since every ant has 6, then we could add 6 84 times, or we could just multiply to find the total number of legs observed. Number 4, the perimeter of a square is a function of the length of its sides. Make a function table that shows the perimeter of squares with side lengths of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 units. So we're going to make a function table. So we have our table here, our line down the middle, and then we have our sides. So it's 3. Why not? 4 or 5. So we have the number of sides, which is S, and then the perimeter, which is P. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is the length of the sides. So the perimeter, we all know that all the sides in the square are the same and that there's 4 sides. So then the perimeter is demonstrated by the equation 4 multiplied by S. So to find the perimeter, we just substitute S with the length of the side. So 4 times 1 would be 4. 2 times 4 would be 8. And then you would continue using this function rule to find the perimeter of the remaining side units. Number 5, use words to write this number and then write 874 in expanded notation. So we want to make sure that there's a comma between every 3. And then from there, you're able to write it out, 18,700,000. Now, for 874 in expanded notation, the first thing you have to do is write it in expanded form, which is every place value separated out. So 800 plus 70 plus 4. And then once you set up the parentheses, you have, the hundreds place. So we're going to have 100 being multiplied here. And then you're going to add the tens place, which you're multiplying by 10 here. And then you have the ones place, which you're multiplying by 1 here. And then the other factor that you're multiplying comes from the first digit in each corresponding place value. All right, 6. Use digits and other symbols to write 3 minus 7. So minus being the subtraction symbol, and then the equals being the equal sign, and then negative 4. So we have this expression written out using our digits and our other symbols like our equations, a negative sign, the subtraction symbol. Number 7, at what temperature on the Fahrenheit scale does water freeze and boil? So this comes from your notes, and we're using the Fahrenheit scale here. So water, I believe, freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So make sure you look at your notes for lesson 16 to figure out at what temperature water freezes and then boils as well. Make sure you include your units. 19, write a formula for the perimeter of a rectangle, then find the perimeter of this rectangle. So to find the perimeter of the rectangle, we have to take all the sides and add them up, right? So the formula here would be width plus length plus length. And the sum of the 4 sides is equal to the perimeter. So to find the perimeter of this rectangle, you'll see that the opposite sides have the same value. And then you just substitute them into the equation and solve for the perimeter. Don't forget to include your units. Number 9, write each number as a simplified fraction or a mixed number. So this right here, the 3 is already taken care of. So we just need to simplify the 16 and 24 by dividing by the greatest common factor. So find the greatest common factor, divide the numerator and the denominator by that, and that's going to give you your simplified fraction. For B, same thing. We're going to find the greatest common factor, divide the numerator and the denominator by that common factor, and then you'll have a simplified fraction. Now for percentages, recall that all percentages are already fractions out of 100. So once you have your fraction over 100, you just simplify by the greatest common factor. 10. Find A and B to complete each equivalent fraction. So essentially, how do you get from 4 to 36? Identify the factor, which is multiplying by 9, and then you'll find the value for A. For B, it's going to be something similar, except the factor that you multiply by will be different. Just keep in mind that you multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same factor to get the equivalent fraction. 11. Which of these figures is not a polygon? Write the reason for your choice. Remember that polygons are two-dimensional surfaces that have vertices, sides, and are enclosed. So which one of these is not a polygon and why? Number 12. What is the name of a polygon that has twice as many sides as a quadrilateral? So how many sides does a quadrilateral have? Well, we look at the suffix, the prefix there, which is quad, meaning 4. And if you want a polygon with twice as many sides, you're looking for a polygon that has 8 sides. So what is a polygon with 8 sides called? Each angle of a rectangle measures how many degrees? Well, we haven't gone over lesson 17 yet. So we're going to not skip this one because we should be able to figure this one out anyway. A rectangle has 4 perfect 90-degree angles. So every single one is the same measure, which is 90 degrees. Now, the 4 angles of a rectangle total how many degrees? Well, you have 4 angles, they're all 90. So to figure out that total, you would just multiply the number of groups, which is 4, by the number in each group, which is 90. The rule of this sequence is k equals 1/8 multiplied by n. Find the 8th term of the sequence. So to find the first term, we multiply by 1. The second term, we multiply by 2 and simplify. The third term, multiply by 3 and simplify. The fourth term, multiply by 4 and simplify. So to find the 8th term, you just substitute the n value with 8. Since 8's a whole number, you have to make it a fraction, and then multiply and simplify. 15, find the value of each variable. It's an addition equation, so you have to use the inverse operation, which means you're going to subtract the given value from both sides to find the value of A. For 16, we're multiplying, so that means we're going to have to use the inverse operation of division. You divide both sides by the coefficient, which is the number next to the variable, and then you simplify. Remember that it's dollars, so you have to keep it in dollars. For 17, something similar. We're actually dividing by the coefficient, which is 32, and then you'll have your value for C. Now, the only tricky thing here is that this is a decimal. So whenever you have a decimal as your denominator or as your divisor, you want to turn that into a whole number. And we can do that by moving the decimal to the right until it's a whole number. But if you do that to the numerator, you also have to do that to the denominator. So we're going to move this one twice as well. So really it's 736 divided by 32. 18, we can use the commutative property to change the order. And then you'll notice that it's addition, so we're just going to subtract the addend from both sides. Make sure your decimals are lined up. Make sure you regroup correctly. 19, simplify 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3. When adding and subtracting fractions, we only operate on the numerators. The denominators will stay the same, and then you simplify if you can. For 20, same deal. We're going to subtract the whole number, so 3 minus 0 is still 3. Then we're going to subtract 7/8 and 5/8. We only operate on the numerators. The denominator will stay the same, and then you simplify it if you can. For 21, when multiplying, we operate on both the numerator and the denominator. So you'll have 2 times 3, you have 3 times 7, and then you'll simplify if you can. 22, we have 3 and 7/8 plus 5/8. So we're going to, again, 3 plus 0 is still 3. But unlike 20 where we subtracted, we're actually going to add these. The numerator still stays the same, but you'll notice that when you add them, you're going to get an improper fraction. So you want to change the fraction from an improper to a mixed number, and then add the whole numbers that result from there. 23, 50 times 50, we can use our Jedi mind trick to just multiply the first numbers and then add the number of zeros at the end of that product. 24, 100,100 divided by 11. It's just a simple matter of long division. Make sure you divide carefully for number 24. 25, how many 1/2s are in 1? So we take one block, for example, and we see that we have a half here, and we also have a half there. So how many total halves do you have in one whole piece? Now use the answer to A to find the number of halves in 5. Well, the halves stay the same, but you go from 1 to 5, which is a matter of multiplying. So whatever you have for your answer for A, which is how many halves are in 1, you can have the same answer for B as long as you multiply by 5. If I were to make 5 of these boxes, count the number of halves that you would have total for them. 26, it says to use your ruler to draw AB this length, then draw BC perpendicular to AB. So we're just going to draw AB, then we're going to draw BC perpendicular to it, and draw a segment from point A. So AB is that long, right? And then BC is perpendicular, so that's going to be, that has to be C up there. And then it says to draw a segment from point A to point C to complete the triangle. You won't have to find the length of AC as long as you draw the triangle, you'll be okay. All right. 27, write 3/3 in an improper fraction and then multiply by a reciprocal of 2/3. So first things first, we multiply the whole number and the denominator, and then we add the numerator. So that's going to, the fraction, the denominator stays the same, so it's still 10/3. And then you multiply by the reciprocal of 3/2. Remember that reciprocal is just a fraction flipped. Once you have done that, you can then multiply and then simplify if you so choose. Find the fraction equal to 1/2 that has a denominator of 10. So first things first, we have to convert the 1/2 to have a 10 in the denominator. And then we're going to subtract 9/10 from that equivalent fraction, and then we simplify the fraction if we can. Remember that we're only going to operate on the denominators, on the numerators, not on the denominators. What percent of a yard is a foot? This one's tricky. A yard is 3 feet. So 1 foot is 1/3 of a yard, and then to turn that into a percentage, you actually have to multiply. You can turn anything into a percentage by multiplying it by 100. If it's not already a percentage. If it's already a percentage, then you divide by 100 to make it a regular number. Once you have the product, simplify it into a mixed number. 38, what is the perimeter of this hexagon? All the angles are right angles. So you have to find this measure. Notice that this is 6, and this entire thing is 10. So you have to find out how much this remaining measure is, and you also have to find this remaining measure as well. So you notice that if we were to extend this invisible line here, this entire thing would be 7. So then it's just a matter of figuring out how much this is, how much, and then you already have 7, 6, 4, 10. You just need to find this side and then the blue side and add them all up to find the perimeter. Don't forget your units. How can you tell to figure out the right is a hexagon? Well, how many sides does it have? How many sides does a hexagon have? That's how you can tell it's a hexagon. All right, your extra credit for today. Since earlier we're talking about theater that was full and then suddenly became empty. The worst movie you have ever seen. The worst movie you have ever seen in the theater that made you want to walk out. I've only ever walked out of one movie. And I believe that one was called The Last House on the Left. I watched on my birthday. It was not cool in the least. So I walked out. I went by myself because I wanted to get a free movie ticket. And so I walked out, and then I want to go watch the last hour of Slumdog Millionaire again, which was a lot of fun. So the extra credit is the worst movie you have ever seen. And it doesn't need to be in the theater. It can be any movie that you've ever seen. The worst one you've ever seen. That is your extra credit for today. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you later.